Well, November 4th, 1985. It was interesting for 2 days, two reasons for me. One, it was my birthday. I was getting ready to turn 20, but it was really no laughing matter. I had just started my second year at Virginia Western Community College in the Radiologic Technology School. And during orientation the prior year, we all signed an agreement that if there was a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, that we were to report to our clinical areas to help with staffing. And at the time, we all kind of laughed it off. It was kind of a big joke, you know, nothing was ever going to happen in Roanoke that we'd need to report. But like I said, November 4th was no laughing matter. I guess it was between 10:30 and 11:30 in the morning. I was looking out my window, and I lived about a mile off of 419 in the Hanging Rock area off Route 780. And water was traveling from east to west, covering one lane of that part of Cove Road. This was very unusual because we do not live anywhere near any type of body of water. But there's a small creek about a mile away, but it's a much lower elevation, so this was kind of concerning. So I get on the phone, I call my father and my mother. My father's working at the PA Federal building at the time. My mother works off Jefferson Street. They don't take me too seriously. It's flooded in Roanoke before. This couldn't be that bad. But I hang up from them and decide that I probably need to fulfill my obligation to Virginia Western and to the Commonwealth of Virginia. It probably wasn't the brightest thing I ever did, but I get in my car and I head down 419. It's not too long before I reach what is now the intersection of Dalewood Avenue and 419. And if you go by there this day and time, it's hard to imagine 2 feet of water going across there, but water's crossing the road going from left to right as you're going towards Salem. And I decide to cross, and I get about in the middle, and water is splashing up on the hood of my 72 Chevy Chevelle. And it begins to sputter a little bit, and I begin to question the wisdom of trying to fulfill this obligation that I signed a year prior. But I sputter through and make it through, and I go down 419, and there's water covering other areas of 419. And it's not quite as bad until I reach the bridge there at what was Willow Creek Apartments, which crosses the Roanoke River. It's the last bridge before you get to Lewis Gale Medical Center. And I decide to cross and have similar results of water on the hood and coming in through the doors. And I get to the other side, and I remember looking back in the rearview mirror, and I see a police officer in a long trench raincoat putting up barricades across the bridge to keep people from crossing the bridge. So long story short, I make it to Lewis Gale, and people look at me and say, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Well, maybe a little bit." But we start working. Staff was down a little bit, and I'm watching the TV, and as the news reports come in, they report on a young paramedic who had been swept away in a water rescue and was missing. And I get a request to go to the emergency room to bring someone over for a radiologic procedure, an x-ray, and it's him. And we bring him into the room, and I said, "Do you realize you're a hero? You're still reported missing." And of course, he didn't know any of this. He just knew that he'd been swept away on Tinker Creek. And my classmate who was working with me at the time strikes up a conversation with him while we're processing the films, and come to find out, they marry and are still married to this day. So as the evening goes on, the water recedes, and I'm able to make it home by about 11:30. And my parents stay up to wish me a happy birthday.